In my previous video, 18 Licks by John McLaughlin, I promised I would show you how to use several of the licks in the context of a well-known standard. So for this lesson, I have used them in a solo or etude written for the changes to Blue Bossa. And this is something important that you should do if you often learn licks and eventually want to play them in context. And in order to recall them and play them in a way that they flow and sound natural, we must take into consideration a set of musical principles that I will explain later in this lesson. But first, let me play you the solo, and I am placing the chord changes and the lick number that is being played over each measure, so if you like, you can go back and review them in the previous lesson. I'm Richie Zellin, and I want to welcome you to the Jazz Guitar channel. I've never heard McLaughlin improvise over Blue Bossa, but even though I'm sure he would play it much faster and probably incorporate more sextuplets and quintuplets, even though I don't have his amazing chops, I believe this etude still evokes a John McLaughlin vibe. Now, you probably noticed lots of 16th note bass lines, which is characteristic of McLaughlin's style. As a result, they are very compatible with music that doesn't call for swing eighth notes, such as a bossa nova, a ballad, or a funk or rock groove. Of course, that doesn't mean you can't use them over a swing tune, but you most likely will have to go into a double time feel when doing so. But regardless of the style or standard you use these licks over, I want to share with you some of the challenges I encountered in principles that I had to take into account when writing this etude. But before I do, if you haven't already done so, I want to recommend that you download the special study package that I put together for this and the previous lesson. It features a multi-page PDF with regular notation and detailed tab of all 18 licks, plus the Blue Bossa etude, also MP3s and band-in-a-box files of everything. And you can download all of this for a very small contribution. Just visit jazzguitar.richiezellin.com/premium and you'll find the link under solo transcriptions. Next, I'm going to slowly go over the solo and comment on the changes I made. And the bottom line of what I want to convey through my commentary is that when learning licks, you don't want to necessarily play them verbatim. You want to make them your own. Your own. In other words, feel free to change some of the notes and rhythms to fit in the context of whatever setting you are using them in. For example, the harmony, rhythm, and tempo of the music will usually require that you vary the ending of a lick so that it voice leads smoothly to whatever you are going to play next. In other instances, you will have to displace a lick rhythmically to start on a different beat of the measure, or not even use the entire lick, but only a portion of it. Needless to say, you will have to work out any lick you truly want to incorporate into your vocabulary in various fingerings. If you've downloaded the PDF, which includes the 18 licks and the Blue Bossa solo, this would be a good time to have them handy so you can refer to them next. And right off the bat, with the very first measure, I already changed something. This first lick is number 8 in the original 18 licks by McLaughlin, and it starts with a pickup, but instead I displaced it rhythmically, and I'm starting it on the upbeat of 1. So 1, And then the second lick I'm playing as is, but I changed the very last note because I wanted it to voice lead to this F minor. I also omitted the second note in this new lick, which is number 6 over the F minor, and I'm just starting it over here on the upbeat of 3. Then I go to the D minor 7 flat 5, and I play lick number 16, and this one I'm keeping as is, and I just transferred the fingering over here. And then I also made some changes to the fingering for the 5/7 altered. Originally, I think I had but then I would have to move my whole hand, and at the tempo I'm playing it, it would be very difficult. So instead of going, I went, which takes me to the next lick, lick number 17, and it's right there. And I added this last note in the next measure so that the lick would resolve and imply the changes a little better. And then I'm starting the second half of this measure with lick number 7. And that one I left the same. I didn't change any notes or any of the rhythms. Of course, I had to change the fingering to play it in the same position, which is, and that takes me to the E flat minor 7, and I'm starting it on the 5th of the chord here, and I'm only using half of this lick, lick number 10, and I'm just doing and then I'm changing to a different lick, to lick number 3 for the A flat 7 altered, and I'm playing that lick the same. And I'm resolving it here on the D flat major 7, which is the 3rd. And then I'm doing lick number 13, which is originally 2 sextuplets, but instead of playing the second sextuplet, I felt it was just much too much for the context of what I'm playing, and it just didn't fit naturally. So I turned the second set into just 4/16 notes, and it's, and I made that note here last a half note to just let it breathe. And then we go to the D minor 7 flat 5, and here I used lick number 18. And here I displaced the original phrase, which was in C minor, to start on the flatted 7 to make it Locrian, to make it the relative Locrian. And I inserted a quarter note rest at the beginning, and that way it voice leads smoothly to the next measure, in which we will see lick number 14. Notice the importance of the voice leading here. This is the lick over the D minor half diminished. And this note here, the C sharp, is where lick number 14 starts. Now that's a real tough lick. What I did here is I also did a little alteration on the last quintuplet, which is what we have in, or the original number 14, I turned it into a sextuplet. I added one note because I felt it voice led smoothly to the next chord, which is a C minor. So I needed the flat 3 at the end. 3, 4. Something like that. It's hard to feel it without a steady tempo. That leads back to the 1 chord, the C minor. Lick number 9 in the original 18 licks, something like this. Yeah, that's a lot of hand movement, so because I had to go to note here next, I had the voice lead to that, I decided to displace the last 2 notes an octave up. So I'm doing it. And that puts me right next to the first note of the final lick over the last minor 2/5. That's lick number 1. And I also changed the second half of it, the notes. The first half is identical. So I'm curious, did you learn something new? I ask because I've noticed throughout the years that guitarists, when first getting into jazz, are notorious for learning licks and playing them out of context in a solo. One of the primary ways great musicians incorporate new ideas such as licks into their vocabulary is by writing their own etudes or solos over a given harmony like I did here. The more you do this, when the time comes to improvise, the easier it will be to recall and use said vocabulary in the proper context. Before I sign off, I would be grateful if you take a moment to like and comment on this video. And if this is your first time on the Jazz Guitar channel and you enjoyed this lesson, please be sure to subscribe. Until we meet again, here's another video I think you'll enjoy. Practice, practice, practice. Stay safe, and may peace be with you.